A semana passada, eu comecei o desafio de aprender brasileiro em 3 meses, mas alguns problemas me fizeram acortá-lo apenas 6 semanas. Nesta atualização, eu vou te contar porquê. Fica ligado. Hi there, Julian here, and I'm now 1 week into the challenge of becoming fluent in Portuguese, so as promised, here you have my first update. Today I'll tell you why I'm shortening this challenge, and then I'll give you an overview of the progress I've made so far and of the biggest challenges I'm facing. And in the end, I'll speak a little bit in Portuguese. Vamos lá! The main reason as to why I'm shortening this challenge is that I wasn't able to find suitable dates for the exam. After doing some research, I realized that there are 2 types of official examinations I could take. One of them is the CAPLE, which is a test based on European Portuguese, and the other one is the CELPE-BRAS, which is sort of the homologous test but for Brazilian Portuguese. Since I said I was gonna learn the Portuguese Brasileiro, I had a more detailed look at the CELPE-BRAS website. But I did not find a suitable location close to where I live, and I do not really want to travel to another country just to take the Portuguese examination, so I decided to have a look at the test that the Portuguese institution organized. That is, I went to the CAPLE site to do some research and found out that the next examinations take place in May. That is in 6 months' time. It is not fun anymore if I have that much time to prepare. I feel that this type of YouTube challenge would lose all of its meaning if done for so long. There is also a second reason worth mentioning, namely I think it is possible to reach basic fluency in just 6 weeks. I feel that I've made a lot of progress in just 1 week, and that if I keep on this track, I can reach my goal faster. I am quite confident that I could have conversations in Portuguese without too much strain in a few weeks. And I mean, this is a YouTube channel, so I believe you have to take risks, and that if you do a challenge, you really have to push yourself to the maximum of your abilities, like otherwise it's not fun. Additionally, there's a third reason, which is that I've decided that I'm going to take many more challenges of this sort next year. The reason being that I'm enjoying this challenge a lot. Having a predefined goal prompts me to study smarter and with more intensity, which means that in the end, I'm making progress faster than I would without this type of challenge. I want to start with these upcoming challenges on January the 1st, which means that by the latest, I'll have to be done with this challenge by December the 31st, which means that I'll have to rename it Fluent in 3 Months Challenge to just Fluent in 6 weeks. Okay, so I have 5 weeks left instead of 11, fine, but this all presents a small problem. Since I can't do the exam at the end of December because there are no dates available, I'll have to find another legit way of showing you that I actually reached fluency. And the only way that has come to mind up until now is to ask a Portuguese-speaking YouTuber to interview me in Brazilian, or to prepare a Portuguese knowledge test that tests my knowledge of the language, as well as my knowledge of the culture of Brazil, Portugal, and the other Lusophone countries like Angola, Mozambique, São Tomé and Príncipe, and so on. I mean, I know that it's not as comprehensive a proof as taking the official exam would be, but it's definitely a good proxy for it, I would say. Plus, it's definitely more entertaining, which suits this YouTube challenge format way better, I would say. So I decided to reach out to a couple of Portuguese-speaking YouTubers to see if they would be down for putting me to the test. I mean, I don't know if they'll reply, because I'm just a Uruguayan polyglot with less than 1,000 subscribers, but who knows, maybe I'm lucky. My first impression with the language is that it's quite easy. I mean, having so many tongues in my head already is a great advantage in different areas. In terms of vocabulary, I obviously find a great deal of synergies with the other Romance languages I know. Having Spanish as my mother tongue is definitely of great help. Portuguese and Spanish apparently have a lexical similarity of around 90%, which makes everything smoother. What surprised me is that my knowledge of Latin American Spanish is also helping me out sometimes. The Brazilian word parceiro, which means partner, is very similar to the word parcero, which is used in Colombia and means bro. ¿Cómo anda parce pues? ¿Todo bien o qué? They are not exactly the same, but their meanings are relatively similar. I mean, a parcero, a bro, is someone very close to you, someone you trust. And a parceiro, a partner, should also be someone of that sort. So yeah, you have a synergy right there. Another example, the word for socks, meias, can be mapped to the word for the same type of object that is used in the River Plate basin, namely medias. Apart from Spanish, my Catalan is also being of great help. For instance, the pronouns are very similar. The possessives meu, teu and seu are actually identical, so whenever I have to say one of those, I just map it to Catalan internally. Then you also have similar words with Italian, such as stupro, decolar and cao. In terms of pronunciation, I would say that Catalan is the tongue that is helping me the most. For one, because the sound of both languages are quite similar, and also because some vowels are actually pronounced differently depending on whether they are part of the tonic syllable or not. For example, the O is pronounced as a U if it is not part of the tonic vowel of the word. And you also have open and closed O's and E's in both languages. But some sounds of the Portuguese phonetic system are so different from the ones I would find in the other languages I speak that I could not find any similarities between them. And this is, by the way, one of the things that has surprised me the most about the language so far, namely the variety and complexity of the Brazilian sound system. Portuguese has several nasal sounds. You can find them, for instance, on the vowels that have a diacritic tilde on top of them. They are called nasal because the sounds are generated up here, not down here. Some examples are the common words mau, pau and mai, and also all the words that end with AO, such as limitação, população, educação, like you have to feel the vibration up here. I mean, the French language also have some nasal sounds such as and on, but those sounds do not have any similarities with the Portuguese sounds whatsoever. But despite the minor challenge of the pronunciation, the Portuguese language is riddled with words that I can easily pick up, and for this reason I have already achieved a pretty high level of comprehension. If I now watch a video in Portuguese where the speaker talks slowly, I can understand more than 95%, I would say. Without subtitles, and if the talker speaks with good diction, I would say I can understand around 80 to 85%. And if I listen to a normal conversation, I would say I get a bit more than 60%. I also feel that I've greatly enhanced my vocabulary. I would say that I've been studying it pretty efficiently, avoiding some of the mistakes I used to make in the past and following the advice that I've given in some of the other videos I've posted on this channel. That is, I try to focus on the most important words, I try to digest the words I'm learning before adding more words to my Anki deck, and I try to create flashcards with loads of examples. Did I get the words I was trying to learn from the frequency list, as I said I was gonna do last week? Well, in the end, not really. Although I said I was gonna try to learn the 500 most common words in the language, I soon realized that those 500 words were not gonna be much for 1 week. So let me clarify that. Since most of those 500 words are so similar to the other languages I already know, I do not actually need to make the active effort of learning them, cause I'll just acquire them through context. Given that they are the 500 most common words, they will show up so often in the materials I'm exposed to that I can be sure that I'll eventually learn them after a lot of listening and reading. So instead of trying to learn words from that list, I decided to go for words that have a lower frequency. To this end, I went through the different areas of vocabulary that came to my mind and selected the words that were impossible for me to guess from context. So for instance, I would type clothes in Portuguese on Google and would then write down the words that were on the one hand very relevant, but on the other impossible for me to guess. That is, I would only capture them if they were distinctly different from the other languages I know. I'm saying capture as if they were Pokemons, like whatever. So I would just ignore words that are similar or identical to Spanish, such as camiseta or meias, and go for difficult words such as cachecol, saia and luva. Most of the days I would go through different word groups and repeat this procedure. This way I added words such as cenoura, joelho and cotovelo to my Anki deck. Okay, let's now go through the goals I have for the upcoming week, the most important one being to find a teacher. I am going to try a bunch of them on ITALKI and then choose the one I like the most. I'm kind of excited because I've never talked to anyone in Portuguese yet. Tomorrow I'll just open my phone, see the face of someone I've never met before, who's probably sitting at 9,000 kilometers away or more, and I'll just have to speak Brazilian there on the spot. It would probably be quite deplorable from my side, but let's see how it goes. Another goal of mine is to continue expanding my vocabulary. I think I'm doing quite well in this regard. I just have to keep grinding while at the same time maintaining the words I already learned fresh in my mind. For that, I need to assimilate the words properly. That is, my Anki deck cannot become too large. And finally, I should focus a lot on the verbs. So far, I've greatly expanded my vocabulary, but I have paid little attention to the verbs, which is a mistake from my side. I can more or less conjugate the present tense and maybe do a couple of persons in the past, but that's it. I feel quite unsure when I have to conjugate a verb, so it's definitely something I have to work on. Finally, as promised in my last video, I'll talk a little bit in Brazilian. In this section, I'll explain you an interesting topic I came across while listening to audiovisual materials or while reading something in Portuguese. In today's video, I'm going to talk about Luis de Camões, Portugal's most famous writer. One disclaimer here, this is obviously a prepared text, not me talking spontaneously. The reason I am doing it this way is because I want this exercise to help me improve my Portuguese. This way I was forced to, for instance, write the text directly in Brazilian, something which aids a lot when trying to learn a foreign language. Also, if I do it this way, I have to practice the text and say it out loud a couple of times before recording, which is a great exercise for my Portuguese and which helps me reinforce the correct structures and words in my mind. I will also hear this excerpt again when editing the video, which will in turn keep reinforcing those words and expressions in my mind. If I spoke impromptu though, I would certainly make mistakes, and then I would reinforce those mistakes in my mind, something I want to avoid. But don't worry, if you want to hear me speak spontaneously, just wait until next week, because I'll be posting excerpts of the lessons I had with some of the teachers on ITALKI. Okay, so there we go. Note that since I'll be talking about a Portuguese author, I'll try to put my best accent from Portugal, although I don't really know if I can make it, but let's try. Português, português. Português de Portugal. Português. Todos nós já ouvimos falar dos mais emblemáticos escritores das línguas inglesa, espanhola e alemã, já que Shakespeare, Cervantes e Goethe são nomes reconhecidos por todos. Mas se eu te perguntasse quem é o escritor mais importante da língua portuguesa, tu saberias me responder corretamente? Não há dúvida de que eu não teria respondido corretamente, mas agora já sei a resposta. Luís de Camões. Luís nasceu em Coimbra no primeiro quartel do século XVI. Ela foi um poeta nacional de Portugal. A sua principal obra é Os Lusíadas, um poema épico onde fala da descoberta do caminho marítimo para a Índia por Vasco da Gama. Luís é uma figura tão importante para Portugal que o dia da sua morte, 10 de junho, foi escolhido como feriado nacional para comemorar os 300 anos da sua morte. Tanto é assim que a língua portuguesa é conhecida por muitos como a língua de Camões. So that was it for today. I now have 5 weeks to become fluent, so I'll keep grinding and keep you updated. If you're enjoying these videos, then just give it a like down there, and if you fancy, leave a comment as well, cause the YouTube algorithm favors videos that have loads of engagement. Thank you and até a próxima!